Most people believe anger comes from other people. Someone insults you, someone disrespects you, someone ignores you, and suddenly you feel heat rising inside your chest. Your thoughts speed up, your body tightens. Your mind starts building arguments, revenge, explanations. You believe they caused this reaction. But Machiavelli understood something very different about human behavior. People rarely control your life directly, but they can control your reactions, and whoever controls your reactions controls your power. Think about it carefully. If someone can insult you and make you lose your composure, they have already shifted the balance. You may believe you defended yourself, but emotionally, they moved you, and movement is weakness in strategic environments. This is why powerful individuals rarely react immediately, not because they are emotionless, because they understand that anger is a lever others can pull. When someone provokes you, they are testing something: your boundaries, your discipline, your self-control. Most people fail these tests automatically. They react instantly. They argue, they explain, they raise their voice, and in doing so, they reveal their emotional structure. Once someone understands your emotional triggers, influencing you becomes easy. Machiavelli observed that the strongest leaders were not those who never faced insult. They were the ones who never lost their internal balance because of it. Because emotional stability creates unpredictability, and unpredictability creates power. When someone tries to provoke you and you remain calm, they lose their strategy. They expected chaos. They encounter control. This shift forces them to reassess the situation. Now consider something deeper. Most anger is not about the present moment. It is about wounded identity. If someone insults your intelligence and you react strongly, it means intelligence is tied to your self-worth. If someone questions your competence and you explode emotionally, competence is tied to your identity. People attack where identity is fragile, and your reaction reveals where that fragility exists. This is why some individuals can hear harsh criticism without blinking. Their identity is not easily threatened. Others collapse emotionally from small comments. Their identity is externally dependent. Machiavelli believed that power requires internal authority. Internal authority means your sense of self is not built on the approval of others. When someone praises you, you remain stable. When someone criticizes you, you remain stable. Because neither reaction defines you. Most people are addicted to emotional validation. They feel strong when admired. They feel weak when criticized. This addiction makes them easy to manipulate. If praise excites you too much, someone can control you with compliments. If criticism wounds you deeply, someone can control you with insults. Emotional independence removes both levers. You no longer chase praise. You no longer fear criticism. And when those two influences disappear, something powerful happens. You become difficult to provoke. Now consider anger itself. Anger feels powerful in the moment. It feels like strength, like energy, like control. But strategically, anger is exposure. When you react angrily, you reveal your priorities. You reveal what matters to you. You reveal what hurts you. You reveal how easily someone can destabilize you. This information becomes a weapon in the hands of anyone observant enough to notice it. Strategic individuals protect information carefully. They do not reveal emotional vulnerabilities unnecessarily. That includes emotional reactions. This does not mean suppressing emotion forever. It means directing it intelligently. Feel anger internally. Analyze it. Ask yourself, what exactly triggered this? Was it disrespect? Injustice? Fear of embarrassment? Once you understand the trigger, you gain control over it. Most people never analyze their anger. They simply release it. But uncontrolled emotion is predictable emotion. Predictable emotion is controllable emotion, and controllable emotion reduces power. Machiavelli respected individuals who could remain composed even in hostile environments, because composure sends a message that says, you cannot move me easily. That message forces people to interact with you differently. They become cautious, measured, more respectful, not because they suddenly admire you, because they recognize that provoking you will not produce the reaction they want. And when reactions disappear, manipulation fails. The first step to never being bothered by anyone is understanding this clearly. Other people do not control your emotions. Your interpretation of their behavior does. Once you see this, anger stops feeling automatic. It becomes a choice, a signal. and information can be managed. When you learn to pause between stimulus and reaction, the entire emotional dynamic changes. Someone insults you. Instead of reacting instantly, you observe. Why did they say that? What do they gain from provoking me? Is this worth my energy? Often, the answer becomes obvious. It is not. Most provocations are attempts to pull you into emotional chaos. If you refuse to participate, the chaos dissolves, and the person who attempted to provoke you is left standing alone in their own noise. That silence becomes your advantage, because nothing frustrates an aggressor more than a target that refuses to react. And that is where emotional discipline begins. Before you learn to stop getting angry, you must understand something most people never realize. Many provocations are not random, they are strategic. People provoke others for three main reasons: to gain attention, to test boundaries, or to establish dominance. Once you understand this, many situations that used to trigger anger suddenly become obvious. Take attention, for example. Some people provoke simply because negative attention is still attention. If they insult you and you react emotionally, you have given them exactly what they wanted. Your anger becomes their reward. Your reaction becomes their entertainment. But if you remain calm and refuse to engage, the reward disappears. And when the reward disappears, the behavior loses its purpose. This is why Machiavellian thinkers never waste emotional energy on provocations designed only to create reaction. They understand a simple rule of psychology: behavior that is not rewarded eventually stops. Now consider the second reason people provoke others: testing boundaries. Human beings constantly explore limits. Children do it naturally. Adults do it more subtly. Someone interrupts you repeatedly. Someone speaks disrespectfully. Someone pushes your patience just enough to see how far they can go. If you react emotionally but do nothing strategically, they learn something important. Your anger has no consequences. It is noise, and noise is easy to ignore. But if you remain calm and respond with clear boundaries, the message changes completely. Calm boundaries communicate strength. Angry reactions communicate emotional vulnerability, and vulnerability invites further testing. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He believed that power is not demonstrated through loud reactions. It is demonstrated through controlled responses. Control creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates caution. Caution creates respect. Now consider the third reason people provoke others: dominance. In many social situations, people subconsciously compete for psychological position. Not always aggressively, often subtly. Someone challenges your opinion publicly. Someone tries to embarrass you in a group. Someone questions your competence. These moments are not always about truth. They are often about hierarchy. If you respond emotionally, you signal insecurity. Insecurity lowers your perceived position. But if you remain composed and answer calmly, the dynamic changes. People observing the interaction notice something important. You are not easily destabilized, and that perception alone shifts power. Now here is something deeper. The reason anger feels uncontrollable is because it is tied to ego. Ego creates internal narratives. I must defend myself. I must prove them wrong. I must show strength. But Machiavelli understood that the strongest individuals do not defend their ego constantly. They defend their position. And those two things are not the same. Defending your ego means reacting to every insult. Defending your position means responding only when it serves your interests. This distinction changes everything. If someone insults you privately and it has no impact on your reputation, responding may be unnecessary. But if someone spreads misinformation that damages your influence, responding strategically may be essential. Anger reacts to everything. Strategy responds selectively, and selective response is one of the strongest forms of power. Now consider another important truth. People who anger easily are predictable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. If someone knows exactly what will trigger you, they can control your behavior with a few words. This happens constantly in politics, business, and relationships. Provocation becomes a tool. But when you become emotionally disciplined, something interesting happens. Provocations lose effectiveness. People try the same tactics. They insult. They criticize. They attempt to create emotional reactions. But when those attempts fail repeatedly, they stop trying. Because manipulation without reaction is useless. Now, this does not mean you tolerate disrespect forever. It means you choose your responses carefully. Calm responses have more impact than emotional reactions. A calm statement such as, "That behavior is unacceptable," delivered with composure carries far more authority than shouting, because calmness communicates confidence, and confidence is difficult to challenge. Now we must address something else. Many people become angry not because of what was said, but because of how it makes them feel about themselves. If someone insults you and you already doubt yourself, the insult feels powerful. If someone insults you and you trust your own competence, the insult feels irrelevant. The difference is internal certainty. Machiavelli believed that individuals must cultivate internal authority. Internal authority means your sense of worth is not determined by other people's opinions. When someone criticizes you unfairly, you evaluate the criticism calmly. If it contains truth, you improve. If it does not, you discard it. No emotional explosion required. Now imagine the effect this has on your life. Arguments become rare. Provocations lose power. You stop carrying emotional battles that once consumed your energy. Instead of reacting constantly, you observe. You analyze. You respond only when necessary. This shift does not make you passive. It makes you strategic. And strategic individuals understand something most people never learn. Emotional control is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because the person who controls their own mind cannot easily be controlled by anyone else. To reach a point where no one can easily anger you, one skill becomes essential: emotional detachment. Most people misunderstand this concept. They think detachment means becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. But that is not true. Emotional detachment simply means you do not allow every situation to invade your inner world. You observe events without immediately absorbing them. You respond instead of reacting. This difference may seem small, but it completely changes how you experience life. Most people move through the world emotionally exposed. Every insult feels personal. Every disagreement feels like conflict. Every criticism feels like an attack. But Machiavellian thinking teaches a different approach. You must learn to separate yourself from the emotional noise of others. Many people project their frustrations onto the world. Someone who insults you may not be attacking you at all. They may simply be expressing their own insecurity, their stress, their jealousy, their frustration with life. But if you absorb their emotion, you become part of their chaos. Detachment prevents that transfer. Instead of reacting instantly, you observe the situation. You ask yourself, what is really happening here? Is this about me, or is this about them? Often the answer becomes clear. The insult was not about your value. The criticism was not about your competence. It was about their emotional state. Once you see this clearly, anger begins to dissolve. Because anger depends on taking things personally. When you stop personalizing everything, emotional stability increases. Now consider another powerful principle. Distance creates clarity. When you are emotionally entangled in a situation, your judgment becomes distorted. But when you step back mentally, patterns become visible. You see motives more clearly. You see insecurities more clearly. You see manipulation more clearly. This perspective allows you to respond intelligently instead of impulsively. Machiavelli this perspective greatly. He understood that leaders who reacted emotionally to every provocation were easy to destabilize, but leaders who remained calm and observant controlled the environment around them, because calmness signals authority. Authority changes how others behave. Now imagine two individuals in the same situation. Someone insults them publicly. The first person reacts instantly. They raise their voice. They argue. They attempt to defend themselves emotionally. The room fills with tension. The insult grows larger. The conflict escalates. The second person remains calm. They pause. They respond with a measured sentence or simply ignore the comment entirely. The room notices something. The insult failed. The provocateur loses momentum. The attention shifts away from conflict. Which person appears stronger? Almost always the second. Because emotional discipline commands respect even without aggression. Now we must discuss ego. Ego is often the hidden engine behind anger. When someone challenges your image of yourself, the ego feels threatened. It demands defense. It demands validation. It demands validation. But Machiavelli understood that ego can be dangerous. People controlled by ego react to everything. Every slight becomes a battle. Every disagreement becomes personal. This constant emotional warfare drains energy and weakens judgment. Strategic individuals reduce ego's influence. They do not feel the need to win every argument. They do not feel the need to respond to every insult. They choose battles carefully. And sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. Silence can be powerful. When you refuse to engage in unnecessary conflict, you demonstrate confidence, because confident individuals do not need constant validation. They understand their value without needing to prove it in every conversation. Now let us address something practical. How do you actually practice detachment? The first step is slowing down your reactions. When something triggers anger, pause. Even a few seconds of silence can interrupt the emotional surge. That pause allows the rational mind to return. Instead of reacting automatically, you evaluate, is this worth responding to? Will responding improve the situation, or will it simply create more noise? Many times the answer is obvious. Silence is the better option. The second step is reframing. When someone behaves disrespectfully, view it as information. Information about their character, information about their emotional state, information about their intentions. Information does not require anger, it requires observation. The third step is emotional discipline. This means training your mind to remain stable even when confronted with negativity. At first this requires effort, but with practice it becomes natural. You begin to see provocations as predictable patterns rather than personal attacks. And when patterns become predictable, emotional reactions fade. Now consider the long-term effect of this mindset. You become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to control. People who once enjoyed triggering emotional reactions lose interest because the reaction no longer exists. This does not make you passive. It makes you deliberate. Deliberate individuals act when necessary and ignore what is irrelevant. They conserve energy. They maintain clarity. They move through the world without being dragged into unnecessary emotional battles. And that calm presence becomes noticeable. People sense that you are not easily disturbed. They speak to you differently. They treat you with more caution, because emotional stability creates psychological weight, and weight commands respect. The more you practice detachment, the more peaceful your internal world becomes. Not because negativity disappears, but because negativity loses its power over you. And when that happens, you begin to realize something important. The world did not become less hostile. You simply became stronger than the hostility. At some point in life, you will encounter people who intentionally try to provoke you. They may insult you, mock you, question your competence, or challenge you in front of others. Most people assume the goal of these provocations is conflict, but very often the real goal is something else: control. The moment someone can make you angry, they gain influence over your behavior. Your attention shifts toward them. Your emotions revolve around them. Your energy becomes invested in proving something to them. And without realizing it, they have already achieved what they wanted. This is why Machiavellian thinkers treat provocation differently. They do not see insults as emotional attacks. They see them as psychological tests. Tests designed to measure your discipline, your composure, your ability to maintain control of yourself. And the outcome of that test determines how people treat you afterward. If you fail the test and react emotionally, the message becomes clear: you are easily destabilized. But if you pass the test and remain calm, the message becomes equally clear: you cannot be manipulated through emotion. This distinction changes everything. Now consider the psychology of the person who provokes others. Often these individuals rely on emotional reactions to feel powerful. When someone loses control because of them, they experience a sense of influence, a sense of dominance. But when their attempt fails, something unexpected happens. Their confidence weakens because the strategy they relied on did not work. This is why calmness can be so powerful. It disrupts the psychological expectations of the aggressor. They expected chaos. They encountered discipline. Now let us discuss a practical technique. When someone says something insulting or disrespectful, resist the urge to respond instantly. Silence for a moment. Look at them calmly. This pause alone can completely change the dynamic. Most people react immediately. So when you do not react, the social rhythm breaks. The provocateur suddenly feels uncertain, and uncertainty weakens their position. After the pause, respond simply, not emotionally, not aggressively, just clearly. Sometimes a single sentence is enough. That's not accurate. Or, I disagree. Or even, that says more about you than it does about me. The key is tone. Calm tone communicates control. Aggressive tone communicates emotional involvement. and emotional involvement gives the provocateur what they wanted. Another powerful strategy is selective disengagement. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every comment deserves attention. If someone repeatedly attempts to provoke you, sometimes the most effective response is none at all. Ignore the attempt completely. Continue your conversation with someone else. Change the topic, or simply walk away. Walking away is often misunderstood. Some people see it as weakness, but Machiavelli understood that strategic withdrawal can be a sign of strength. When a situation offers no advantage, engagement becomes unnecessary. If someone is attempting to create chaos and you refuse to participate, the chaos collapses. Now consider something deeper. The ability to remain calm under insult signals something important to observers. It signals confidence, confidence that does not require defense. People notice this, and their perception of you changes. You become someone who cannot be easily rattled, someone who maintains control even when challenged. This reputation becomes a form of psychological armor. Once people realize that provoking you produces no reaction, they stop trying. Because emotional provocation relies on reaction. Without reaction, the strategy fails. Now let us talk about emotional endurance. Remaining calm once or twice is not enough. True discipline means maintaining composure consistently. At first this feels difficult. Your mind will want to react. Your ego will demand defense. Your emotions will push you toward confrontation. But every time you choose calmness instead of reaction, you strengthen your control. It becomes easier, more natural. Eventually, your mind stops seeing insults as threats. They become background noise, just another behavior from another human being, not something capable of disrupting your inner stability. This transformation takes practice, but the rewards are significant. Arguments disappear from your life. Conflicts lose intensity. You stop carrying emotional tension from every interaction. And most importantly, you gain something powerful: psychological freedom. Freedom from the emotional traps that once consumed your energy. Now imagine a life where insults no longer disturb you, criticism no longer destabilizes you, and provocations no longer control your reactions. In that state, something remarkable happens. You begin to operate from clarity instead of emotion. You make decisions calmly. You respond strategically. And people quickly realize that attempting to manipulate you through anger is useless, because the one thing they cannot access anymore is your emotional weakness. And when that door closes, the power dynamic changes permanently. There is a final stage in mastering your emotions, a stage where anger no longer controls you, where insults no longer disturb you, where other people's behavior no longer dictates your internal state. This stage is emotional sovereignty. It is the moment when your inner world belongs entirely to you. Most people never reach this level. Because they live reactively, their mood rises and falls depending on how others treat them. A compliment makes them happy. A criticism ruins their day. An insult creates anger. A disagreement creates stress. Their emotions are constantly being pulled in different directions. But Machiavelli understood that true power begins with asterisk self-mastery. If your emotions can be controlled by others, your decisions can be controlled by others. And if your decisions can be controlled, your life can be controlled. This is why the strongest individuals do not focus on controlling others. They focus on controlling themselves. Self-control removes the levers that others use to manipulate you. Now consider something important. The world will always contain criticism, jealousy, competition, misunderstanding, disrespect. These things cannot be eliminated, but your reaction to them can. And once your reaction changes, the emotional impact disappears. Imagine hearing criticism and calmly analyzing it instead of reacting. If the criticism is accurate, you improve. If it is inaccurate, you discard it. No anger required. Imagine hearing an insult and recognizing it as a reflection of the other person's emotional state rather than your value. No anger required. Imagine someone trying to provoke you and realizing they are simply searching for attention or dominance. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of arguing, you remain composed. Instead of escalating, you disengage. This mindset creates a powerful shift. You stop seeing people as threats to your emotional stability. You start seeing them as predictable human beings with predictable behaviors. Once behavior becomes predictable, it stops feeling personal. And once it stops feeling personal, anger loses its fuel. Now let us talk about inner stability. Inner stability is built on three foundations: clarity, discipline, and independence. Clarity means understanding yourself, your values, your boundaries, your priorities. When these are clear, outside opinions lose their power. Discipline means training your mind not to react impulsively. You pause, you observe, you choose your response deliberately. Independence means your identity does not depend on the approval of others. When these three foundations combine, emotional resilience becomes natural. You do not need to pretend to be calm. You actually are calm. Now imagine interacting with someone who attempts to provoke you. They expect irritation. They expect argument. They expect emotional reaction. Instead, they encounter composure. Your calmness becomes disarming. They lose the emotional leverage they hope to gain. Eventually, they realize something. Provoking you does not work, and when a strategy stops working, people abandon it. This is how emotional sovereignty changes your environment, not through aggression, through consistency. Over time, people begin to treat you differently. They speak with more caution. They respect your boundaries. They think carefully before challenging you unnecessarily, because they sense that emotional manipulation is ineffective. This is the quiet power of self-control. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but it is deeply influential. Now consider the effect this mindset has on your life. Your mind becomes quieter. You stop replaying arguments in your head. You stop imagining confrontations that never happen. You stop carrying resentment for days or weeks. Your energy becomes focused on what actually matters: your work, your growth, your purpose, your relationships with people who respect you. Instead of fighting every battle, you choose only the battles that truly deserve attention. This selectiveness increases your influence, because people recognize that when you do respond, it matters. Silence becomes your default. Response becomes intentional. And intention commands respect. Finally, there is one realization that completes this transformation. Other people cannot truly disturb your peace unless you allow them access to it. Their words are sounds. Their opinions are perspectives. Their behavior reflects their character. None of these things define your inner stability unless you accept them as truth. When you understand this deeply, something remarkable happens. The world stops feeling like a battlefield. Provocations become predictable. Criticism becomes information. Insults become noise. And your emotional state becomes steady regardless of what others say or do. This is the moment when anger loses its control over you, not because you suppress it, but because you understand it. You understand people, you understand motives, and you understand yourself. And when self-mastery reaches this level, something becomes true. No insult can shake you. No criticism can destabilize you. No provocation can control you. Because the strongest fortress you can build is not around your life. It is within your mind. And once that fortress exists, the outside world loses its ability to disturb your peace. You move through life calm, focused, unbothered.